Atlanta News First Plus starts now.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here, and welcome all of you who are watching from different streaming channels. We first want to take a moment of silence in honor of the life that was lost in the death of the officer Pradeep Taming, a 25-year-old Gwinnett County police officer killed in the line of duty this past Sunday. Please bow your heads and take a moment of silence as we remember Officer Taming and all officers who have fallen in the line of duty. Thank you. Today we are releasing the results of an independent administrative review of the South Fulton Police Department, an important step forward for our city and for public trust. This review was requested by the City Council that began in November and was completed at the end of January, and it represents a clear-eyed look at how our police department operates, where improvements are needed, and how we will move forward. This city believes that strong law enforcement agencies constantly evaluate themselves. We believe in transparency, and that it is not a weakness, it is a strength. Rather than hiding problems, South Fulton chooses to shine a bright light on them so that we can address them honestly and responsibly. This administrative review gives us a roadmap. It outlines practical, professional recommendations grounded in best practices, and it will guide our work as we strengthen policies, improve accountability, and continue building a police department that earns and deserves the confidence of the people it serves. So again, thank you. We are a city on the rise, and now we will hear from our Public Safety Director, Cedric Alexander, for some brief remarks.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon for being here with us. As you just heard the Mayor, this is all about us as an open and transparent city community where we're moving forward with some changes clearly that have been outlined to us and changes that are currently in progress. Nothing is more important to us than the citizens of this community, being able to provide the type of public safety in which people trust and they feel a sense of comfort with, and a department in which also they feel they can grow with. Because our ability to be able to provide public safety is only as strong as the support and the trust that people in the community have of us. So we're willing, and you heard the Mayor say it, we're willing, we're going to move forward, we're going to do things that are very different, and I'm very delighted to have the new Mayor on board with us. And as the opportunities present themselves today, we certainly will answer any questions that you may have to do the very best that we can anyway. But thank you for being here. But I really want to give one really strong shout out to our men and women who are out there servicing this community every day, both on our police and our fire and all of our public safety apparatus. So I want to thank them for the work that they do and the challenges and the risks that they take to keep us all safe. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Alexander. First, I would like to acknowledge the elected officials that are in the room. I would be remiss if I did not support them in the work that they've done to get us here today. We have Councilwoman Linda Pritchett, who represents District 7. We have Councilwoman Helen Zenobia Willis, who represents District 3. And we have Councilman J.C. Sebastian, who represents District 4. At this time, we will take questions from the audience.
I'd like to start. I certainly understand the spirit of moving forward, and I appreciate this, the chance for us to ask questions. But I have to ask, with everything that was in this report, just a couple examples that, Chief Meadows should have never been the sole decision maker on what happens to officers that raise concerns about him. The report gave specific examples of how the chief manipulated the system. So what can you say to people about giving him that sweet retirement deal literally a month before you released this report? And how does that make people feel like people and things will be held accountable when he was able to just walk away without any accountability?
Well, it's a new day in the city of South Fulton. We do wish Chief very well in his endeavors, but he was very instrumental in setting this police department up. He has done phenomenal work within this past 7 years that he did serve the city. So again, at the end of the day, we are learning from our mistakes. We are acknowledging our mistakes, and we're moving forward. I don't know if
Are you saying that was a mistake to let him go the way you did? 'Cause it doesn't.
No, I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying, based off of the report and what you found in it, if there were mistakes there that we all are not fond of, at the end of the day, we're going to make sure that we follow the recommendations that were given from the report and to improve efficiencies in our police department.
What about folks who question the $200,000 that you gave him, plus money to testify in his own lawsuits that he would have been subpoenaed to do anyway? I just want to know, like, I just need more of an answer as to how he was able to go with all of these issues laid out now.
As I've shared, that this is a new day. We are setting a new tone. We are being very transparent. Chief served us well. He served us for 7 years in the city. He set up this police department.
He served you well.
Did you want to?
Yeah, let me jump in here if you don't mind, Mayor. Thank you very much. Let me just get right here. It's a question, Taisha, that you raise, certainly people in the community are raising. And I think, and I'm certain, having been in this business as long as I've certainly have seen these kinds of dynamics before. But I think it's important for the community to keep in mind, wherever we were in the past, however we got there, it's at the fault of no one that is standing here. But of course, we being city representatives, we assume some responsibility, right? But I think the key is how do we move forward in this process that we have now? Because we can go back, we can speculate. We're talking about someone who was here that stood this agency up 8 years ago and the challenges that came about with that. And then we get to this point where things are reported that happens. He's placed on administrative leave. But this council did everything that they could to try to correct whatever it was so that we could move forward. And I think the focus for all of us right now is really going to have to be taking a real good look at this report, finding out where our weaknesses were so we don't find ourselves in this kind of position again, strengthening those weaknesses and move it forward. And some of these things, quite frankly, have already begun to take place. Particularly when we look at policies and procedures, we look at promotions, we look at demotions that were made that raised the jaundiced eye, if you would, Taisha. We're looking at those things. Some of those things are in the process of being corrected while we speak. I've been here 6 months. What we have put into play is a RFP that is going to hire companies that's going to come in and set up a promotional process for us so that you will know where you are in that process. You will know how you fall on that list. You will be promoted off that list. It won't be in secret. It won't be in private. Everyone will know where they are. The other piece is looking at our policies and our procedures in terms of how we've done business. That report would reflect that a lot of those policies, of course, were written back during the old Fulton Police days. And a lot of those policies are totally outdated now. So it is incumbent upon us, for all of us elected officials and appointed persons like myself, is now to take new policies, which we're working on at this very moment, that we're going to release here pretty soon as we get each and every division and department to contribute in terms of what those policies need to look like under 21st century mandate, which I was part of during the Obama administration. We're going to rewrite how we do business. And once we do that, it's going to be published publicly, where the public can go up online. They can see what are the uniform requirements, what's the discipline requirements, what's around use of force or traffic accidents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to make that known and be seen by the community at large. But in addition to doing that, it's also important to remember that every police officer, sworn officer in this police department will get a copy of those new policies and procedures, will electronically sign off on them, and will be held wholly responsible to carry out what is being proposed in front of us. But we're going to get those out. I still have to have them reviewed by our legal unit and by our HR department. But that's the road in which we are now looking to progress as we go forward. Let me hear from some others.
You talk about how trust is so important when you're building a city, you're building a police department.
Yes,
The
ma'am.
city of South Fulton has made a lot of headlines in the past year with the former mayor, police chief, and now this audit. So how do you build that trust with the community going forward?
Well, one step at a time, because, look, I can take us all the way back to 10 or 15 years ago, where as a nation as a whole, even 5 years ago, where the country questioned police. They questioned their elected officials. They questioned their chiefs around a number of incidents that created this type of pause and fear. We're in a different place now. We have a brand new mayor. We have a new and renewed city council. You have an interim public safety director who understands the dynamics of how to build that trust back. Here again, I would take all of you back 10 years to Obama's 21st Century Task Force report. There were 6 pillars in there that outline how we build trust across this country. And we have been doing that for years, and still, even though we're under different administrations, that document is still utilized. That document is going to be very much a part of how we think about and develop policies in this department today. But every time, and I tell men and women this every day that go out on patrol, every call that you answer for service is an opportunity to renew and rebuild relationships with people who depend on us every day. And the men and women do a very, very good job, because today, when I look at, over the last number of months, when I look at the number of internal affairs complaints that are being filed, they're virtually nil. And that's a reflection of the work that they're doing and how our communities are seeing police. Next.
I'd like to ask a question, Madam Mayor. It sounds like this is more of a governance issue. Can you explain to us, from the governance standpoint, in terms of the council deciding to order this report? Why was it? And then also, you put it online, which is rather rare. This city's been known for hiding stuff.
Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things that we really wanted to do. When you talk about building trust, is being very transparent. This report was available online on the city's website, so all can view it, the residents, people that have an interest in this particular agency. But at the end of the day, it is about the decision of the council. We had a concern. We wanted to make sure that we were able to have somebody take a clear look at the policies and procedures that were happening in our police department, and that was the decision that was made. We waited intentionally to get the recommendations, the findings and the recommendations, and now we have to act on them. But transparency is where we're leading, and that's where we're moving.
And looking at this report, moving forward, and you touched on this, but how do you ensure that the department does not start to fall back into old patterns, looking at some of the ways that IA complaints were handled, just kind of the specifics of the report?
Well, yeah, and that's a great question, because one thing you got to have it written in policies, and not just written in policies, but policies in which an administration, in this case, our police department, its leadership, have to make sure that every day that men and women come to work, that they understand we have policies. I have to role model that. Majors and captains and lieutenants have to role model behaviors in which we expect our young men and women to be able to adopt when they go out on the street. That is a great question, because to have a written document means nothing if we don't have a way to actually make it come alive. Mm-hmm. And that's something we put a great deal of emphasis on now in the time that I've been here, and we're going to continue to do that. Because if there's been any sense of distrust in any segment of our community, we certainly want to build that back. And we'll build it back over time. We're on the trajectory of doing that, as you heard the mayor outline. But I think it's very important to note, too, some of the more salient issues that oftentimes that doesn't get talked about, in which communities are doing better. We have an interactive community to the point where our crime over the last 6 months, 3 months, has actually went south. That is a result of things that we're actively doing different. I've directed our Field Operations Division Commander, Major Jubal Rogers, to be able to talk to his men and women, to his captains, to his lieutenants, everyone in that rank and file, and speak to them very clearly about what expectations are. And when we see that kind of reduction, when we've taken from the past, going back to questions you had, Taisha, but when we can take from past from what we used to do, where we had a handful of officers on the road, I got rid of a lot of those so-called specialized units, taking those units, put them back on the street where we're out there putting 15, 20 cars on the street every shift now. And we're seeing the results of that as a result of a reduction in crime, which we hope to continue to move south, but it certainly always have its challenges. And at the same time, too, with that reduction, we're seeing the public that's responding to this police department clearly in a very, very different way. And that's what's important to us. We're not going to fabricate this. That is not my reputation. That is not my history. But we are going to make sure that the public get the kind of service that they deserve from their public safety. This mayor is helping guide and direct that. And we are all partnered here in order to make sure that we do that for this community at large.
Where's the search for a new police chief at? I understand you were saying that's the first step to trying to, where's that at? And who does that? The council, the mayor, who does that?
Well, we have initiated the search for national search for a new police chief. We will be utilizing Dr. Alexander's expertise in helping us find a really good police chief. But it's not going to be a quick process. We're going to be very intentional about the next leader of our police department. Certainly, we have this gentleman here who is standing in the gaps and helping us, but we will make sure that we get it right.
I have one more thing to ask. In the report, it says that there were problems with promotions. Right now, standing in this room, you have somebody who was promoted who is in the middle of one of these lawsuits that pretty much the report says is substantiated. What do you do about those promotions now?
Well, I don't know specifically who or what you're referring to.
Rogers was promoted, and he is in the middle of a couple of the lawsuits, and a lot of the allegations were substantiated in the report. So what do you do with that?
So let me be clear about that. Let me put it in a little bit of context, if we will, all right? That was before I got here. Major Rogers was in that role as a major. Now, it's my understanding he has been named, but of course, that's an ongoing litigation. But in my time that I have spent with him and others that are in command positions, they're carrying out the function of what I'm asking them to do each and every
I
day.
think it was you that promoted him. to
Promoted.
Jubal.
No, he was he was already a major. He was already a major.
Being a major before you got here.
Yes.
Yes, he was.
Yes, he was. He was a major when I got here.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, what do we do now that a lot of the allegations are substantiated in the report?
Well, I wouldn't go so as far as to say, I get your point that there are things that came out of.
It says it specifically, in specific examples.
Would you be specific with one of them? And maybe, and I'll address that.
IA was lacking oversight, leaving the door open for retaliation. Chief Meadows should have never been the sole decision maker on people who were raising concerns about him. Chief manipulated the system, what he did last year in '22, what he did with Dickerson, and Jubal Rogers is named in a lot of those lawsuits. So I'm just asking, I wasn't even going to name him, but when you asked who am I talking about, I'm naming him now. So if you're talking about moving forward and still maintaining trust, how can you do that with the very people who were in the department doing things?
I think we're talking two different things here, Taisha. I think one, we're talking litigation lawsuit, right? Which
That
is
alleged,
alleged lawsuits that are still to be determined, right? The other thing we're talking about is a promotion of a commanding officer inside of this organization. I can only respond from the position that he's in currently, that he was in when I got here, and the work that he's been doing henceforth. And he has been doing yeoman's work. Now, how this turned out on the litigation side, I don't know, and I don't think any of us in this room know. But on the performance side of carrying out the functions, the reduction in crime that we're seeing, the uptick in morale that we're seeing inside this organization, that is a direct result, much of it, to the work that our commanding officers, in this case, the one that you named, is doing every day. So I can only judge them based on what my experience have been with them. When you take this report, I adopted this report. The moment I came in here, whatever was right or whatever was wrong became my responsibility. And immediately, my whole command staff took some responsibility in addressing these issues that is being.
Came out a week ago.
Came out a week ago, but it didn't have to come out for me to recognize that I had issues and concerns about the way people were disciplined, the way people were promoted, and et cetera. What the report has done, it has validated, quite frankly, right in line with what some of my early perceptions and experiences were. So that report, for me, is going to be a guide map, a road map, if you will, to continue.
I'm saying I'm talking about two different things, though. I'm talking about the same thing. It's the very people who are alleged in the lawsuits and the findings.
And as we recall, there, no officers were individually named.
But what I'm saying to you is, even if it's an allegation, that is still to be litigated. The only thing I can speak to, and I got to move on to another question, the only thing that I can speak to is that in the here and now, in my experience with the commanding staff that I adopted when I came in, they have adopted my philosophy. They have following my leadership to move us in a path forward. Juba Rogers did not promote himself. He was promoted, right? By Chief Meadows.
Who is named in this report as doing so many things wrong.
That's
all I'm asking.
All right, so we have other
and I
reports,
responded
so-
to it as best that I can, two different issues. One, litigation still has to be done. Two, daily performance, in which I'm responsible for him every day and those like him when I came here, and they continue to carry out, because the successes that we have achieved thus far has not been done by me. It's been done by them. Next question. Any other questions?
Last question,
Question about the $480,000 that the city has just received and is supposed to be getting new vehicles. Can you talk a little bit about what that money will be used for, and it's targeted for police, I understand.
So that will be one of the safer grants that we've received. Definitely it will address some of the concerns also, as well as the streets, making sure we have an issue with a lot of things, and we want to make sure that our streets are safe. But that particular grant will go towards making sure they get the proper equipment, making sure they have all of their needs addressed as their officers here. We want them to bring their best self to work, and that's what we are guaranteed to do by these successful grants that the city is receiving.
Is this city cooperating with ICE or not?
No, that will be your. You can answer
Yeah,
that.
and let me.
There's been a lot of talk about that.
Yeah, well, no, we're not cooperating with ICE. I'm going to tell you what we are doing, what we're getting ready to do. So in light of the social media stuff we've all been hearing and what has been posted, let me clarify one thing. ICE is situated in College Park, as I understand, and have been there for years. Now, in light of what's going on in the country today, any mention of ICE certainly do strike the nerve of a lot of people. And as it struck nerve with people in this community, we have no reported cases whatsoever of ICE being involved or engaging in our community. Can people say they have seen them? That's very well possible. They move around, around the city and around the metro, if you will. But what I have been, and what I've been directed by my city manager and by the mayor, we're not in a relationship with them to help them carry out their functions. That's not our responsibility. However, if we, a police officers, are called to the scene where ICE is conducting their business, someone call us, our job will be to respond as if we would any other call for service, to de-escalate as best we can and to then move out. I'm also going to have several dates that I'm having finalized to meet with ICE leadership in this metro regional area. And the purpose of that conversation that I initiated was to have an opportunity to sit with them. So if they come into our community at South Fulton, I need a relationship with them where at least they will pick up the phone and let me know that they're coming in to do whatever business they're doing, so that I can intelligently inform my city manager, the mayor, and the council members, so they can inform their communities in which they represent. And I just think that makes all the sense in the world. We're not aligned with them. We will not be taking calls for service with them. We will not be making arrests with them. They're under federal law, and they will handle their own business. But for us as a city government, as long as I'm here, It is always about trying to build a relationship. They were open to meeting. We're just meeting to confirm that date, and this is just merely a meet and greet and an ask that should they come into our communities, we will be able to at least to know it.
You've been in law enforcement for about 40 years on all
Excuse me, I'm
national
sorry.
levels and local levels, Mr. Director. So my question is, when you saw what happened in Minnesota, the 2 deaths, what did you feel about that as being a law enforcement executive so many years when you saw that?
Well, real quickly, and I need us, if we can, circle back around while we're really here, but real quick, it was very troubling, and I've said this to the national press. It was very, very troubling, still troubling today, and it's an organization, quite frankly, that is under-supervised, that is ill-trained, and hopefully, some interactions will take place where they begin to do something different. And I'm very familiar with Minneapolis. I served there as their commissioner for about a year, stood that office up, and I know of many of the people who are involved in those interactions with ICE at this moment, but I am confident that they will get past this, particularly now that it has been reported that ICE is going to come out of there at some point. But yes, it's troubling. It's troubling to all of us, and it's troubling to other chiefs and public safety directors that I talk to across the country who feel the same way. This is not the way that we conduct business in communities in which, in the end, ICE get to leave, but I have to stay there, and I have to continue to build those relationships.